Non-duality is such a confusing term and maybe even concept for many because of what's being put out there. And so much of what is being shared and the way it's being shared is not really full non-duality. It's a portion of it. It's not inclusive enough. Okay, so let me get into it. So, non-duality, what does that mean? Not two, not two. And that's the nature of life, the nature of the universe is that everything is one. It's one great whole. And it's made up of many parts, but the truth is, it's all, in essence, in the end, in the background, consisting of one. In the background is one, and then there are these individual little pieces, okay, including you and me. So, how does one realize non-duality, the truth of not two? Well, for many people, they go into the transcendent, and that's where the Advaita teachings come from, and the direct pointing path to return back to prior to creation, pointing to pure awareness. What is always here? What is always here? And it's always aware. It's not the content, it's not stuck and glued in what it's aware of, it's just simply aware. So the path of neti neti, which is not this, not that, is a return back, attempting to return back to that which is an awareness of everything. And it's always been here since you were born, since all creation. Okay, it's always here. So it's so the conditioning and the conditioned mind and the conditioned thoughts and all the thinking and the feeling and the sensing and the seeing, everything is arising and falling in this that we are. And waking up to that is a real awakening, and we call it really it's called self-realization, okay, when the self realizes itself. All right. And what does that do? Well, it helps liberate one from being stuck, consciousness being stuck in the content, in the thinking that it thinks that it's all it is, that all it is this separate self, this me. It's you wake up out of the me into the vastness of what we really are, our being. Okay. So we go prior to all this arising, prior to content, the formless, the emptiness. And so much of what's out there in terms of non-duality, what you hear is pointing to this, as if this is all that is what non-duality is. And I don't agree. And many people are not agreeing now, right? It's emerging more that because we're evolving. So, okay, so that is waking up to your pure essence, to spirit, really, to spirit, where you came from and where you'll return to, where everything returns to. And so everything is rising and falling and rising and falling, all of creation in the substance, the big primordial soup of pure isness, creation. Okay. But when it's rising, what is it? Well, form, all form. You, me, thoughts, feelings, sensations, everything, all life, all stars, all planets, doggy, all rising. Okay. And that's the form part. So you got the formless part. Let's say one has woken up to one's true nature. In Zen, they call it that. There's so many different words based on what paradigm you're coming from. Or maybe you're not coming from any paradigm and you just are sort of waking up, but you're using the non-dual language, right? So, which has become a thing, which is wasn't a thing back when I was first a spiritual seeker. Gangaji had just gotten on the, gotten to be out there, but I was interested in spirituality way before that. And when I first discovered her, and she wasn't my teacher, she didn't end up being my teacher, but I really appreciate her. I heard some of this language for the first time, but I don't even know if I heard the word non-duality until much later. And I think it's kind of good to not be boxed in by anything. And if you have been sort of boxed in by the idea and notion of of non-duality, see if you can unpack yourself and unpack the meaning so that you can be free of any idea of how awakening is supposed to show up, how it's supposed to be for you or for anyone. Okay, so when you're returning back to, and when that is returning back to its original nature, to pure awareness, it sees life as Maya or as the relative. Okay, the relative and the imminent. But that's not true non-duality. That's like half non-duality. That's returning back home to the unborn. So first you go back to prior to creation, to that which always is. And then for those who are interested and are maybe being drawn and feel like, well, what about creation? So prior to creation, then what about creation? And isn't non-duality also include creation? Not two. So let's not have two here. The spirit version, the pure awareness version, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Yeah. And then the relative, so-called. As if it puts it in such a weird term that's the relative, when really that's creation. And yes, we want to be able to wake up out of the sticky center of the self sense, the me sense. We want it to be able to get liberated in terms of if you're interested in awakening, because it's so sticky that consciousness imagines that it is the separate self. Okay, it's like this glue, this center, jelly donut center, and everything falls in there. Me, everything's happening to me, mine, with a deep self-realization that opens up, and there's an empty center there, depending on how deep the realization has gone, and it can continue to drain out that self center, the me center. All right. So once it's been done enough, oftentimes there is, like I was saying, a return back to coming down off the mountain. You know, the ox herder pictures, if maybe you can look it up. It's really interesting. And so you go up the mountain, and then you're at the top of the mountain, and you discover your true nature, through grace and effort and whatever grit. And you have a vast view. See, you're on top of the mountain and you're viewing everything from up here. Oh, look at those people with their human problems down there. I'm above it all. This is above it all. But eventually we want to come back down off the mountain and then rejoin humanity, okay? And it's a different kind of connecting to others. It's a different type of connecting to yourself, to your own humanity, because that center is no longer oriented around a separate self. Okay. But then you still have this content. Okay. What still may be here, which, I mean, if it's all gone, you're lucky. That's hardly ever the case. And you can probably point out to many different teachers where they thought that was the case, and then they fell from grace, right? And they act out their power center and their sexual misconducts, right? And they're wanting to amass wealth and students, and they act out. It's because this has been denied, right? So non-duality is meant to be inclusive. The true non-duality in my book and in some other used books, this is the evolution of the meaning of not two. Not to means nothing is left out. And so there might still be some content here. There was for me, for sure, not just some, there was plenty. And I had worked through a lot before and during awakening. And then after, when I was having that really beautiful romantic time of being wooed by emptiness, which was like a solid 2 year time. It beliefs and all that had been dismantled for many years. But that separate self, just the emptiness was just revealed. And everything was empty. Everything was empty for 2 years. And then, hallelujah, what happened is the unity came in. The all is oneness came in. And that was a very intimate sensing kind of experience. And I discovered that empty quality was able to discover for itself that it's not just empty, but it's completely full, you know, and all the content wanted to come in and be known as the divine. That's just the divine. It's God. It's whatever you want to call it. Truth. You call it whatever you want. And so then what happened is the heart bloomed during the unity era period. The heart was blooming. And everything that was contained within was wanting to be known as that too. And so nothing was being pushed away, basically. So if sadness was here, it wasn't labeled as bad, and it wasn't sticky anymore because there was no me being sad. It was just sadness was here. If there was some fear was here, not me being afraid. What else do we've got? We've got grief. We've got there's so many things. All right. And then there can be maybe some traumas that want to come up. But because there's no separate self sense there anymore, once its self-realization has been really, really penetrated and done its trick, done its job, okay? Then you can't lose yourself anymore in any sensation or any feeling. You can't be lost. So there's this welcoming and acceptance of things as they arise. And that is the liberation of the human being. Okay? So then the awakening becomes imminent. It's not just a transcendent, that is that. Everything is that, and including this. Okay? And then, of course, including everything else, you and everything is empty at its core, and it's full and rich and full of a substance of the divine nature. Okay. So nothing gets pushed away or denied in the end. That's the goal. And things get to be made conscious. What was unconscious and had been born out of separation, maybe some misunderstanding when you were a child or a teen or a young adult, whenever. There was some misunderstanding that arose, especially because there was a me sense being a victim, maybe stance or whatever. Some kind of, ignorance, some confusion. And that realization that is now embracing being, its own totality, will come back and say, this is it too. This is truth. This is God. It's all one thing. And so there's this return phase. So first there's this outward kind of transcendent, kind of like the rocket going up out of planet Earth's atmosphere. It looks down, it can see everything up there. It goes up into the cosmos, into the universe, and then it sees everything as very far and distant, and like, wow, look at my nature. It is just so vast and untouched and unborn, and nothing can harm it. And it's eternal, it's infinite. And that's what our true nature is. That's what we are in truth at our core. Okay. And then if we're lucky, it comes back down the rocket and it comes back to this plane, this whatever 3D, whatever plane this is. And it rejoins it and goes, this is it too. Every blade of grass, every bug, everything, even if I don't like it, even my likes are it, my dislikes are it, conditioning is it. And then what is not in harmony will get to be seen. Like, let's say there's some cleanup to be doing. So wake up, you've heard wake up, clean up, maybe you've heard of that. But it's a cleanup and it's done from a loving place, because when it comes back down, it really comes back down and the heart wants to bloom, for its creation. God, the divine, loves its creation. It is everything, and it is the emptiness and the formless and the unborn, and then it bursts all this, and it loves its creation, and it wants to be awake and conscious here, and imminent, meaning within it, know itself within it, and not get lost anymore, asleep by pushing and resisting. That's what makes one be asleep here. Pushing and resisting the content that's here. It's not necessarily easy. And it can be harder for some, or harder in certain parts of our makeup than others. Like maybe relationship might be really an easy thing. And for others, it's heavy based on some past. Or a childhood, let's say, that was traumatic. There's going to need to be some cleanup, some support. So cleanup sounds kind of sanitary and kind of removed and almost negative, but it's actually not like that. It's more like there's a desire and a love and a compassion for oneself. So you go get the support and the help and the trauma support and the nervous system support, because the nervous system has been maybe overwhelmed over a course of a lifetime, however old you are, and it could use a little help to get emptied out, so that this truth has a chance to shine through. That's all it wants to do. But not by pushing away, and not by denying, and not pretending that awakening doesn't include the human and even the messiness. It's not so messy when there's love. It's not. So, but the point is and it's inclusive. Truth is inclusive. And if you have an idea of what truth is, non-duality, because I don't even call myself a non-dual teacher. I don't even want to be in that category. People tell me sometimes, you're not really a typical non-dual teacher. And I said, I don't want to be in any box. Don't put myself, or don't even put you in a box. But definitely there's a box out there. And that box, often it's skewed. And it's not with everyone. There's people who are doing non-dual teachings who are way more embodied and inclusive, okay? I'm not saying it's all like that. But I would say the predominant has been that way, and maybe it's coming from the ancient teachings of Advaita Vedanta and all that, which is super useful. I'm so grateful for inquiry, and for pointing, and even for the who am I, and going into all that. But the thing is that in this day and age, we cannot leave out the world, and we have to come back off the mountain, and we've got to rejoin and not get lost in it, and be here, be as what was it, Jesus who said, in the world, but not of it. And I would go deeper and say, made of the world and not lost in it. Not lost. So you can be so free inside that you can enter into any moment fully, even if it's uncomfortable and difficult. Eventually you can enter into any circumstance fully and never have realization be rocked. That's called abiding awakening, and never have realization be lost or afraid of being lost, so that it doesn't even enter your consciousness anymore that there's anything that could ever make it go away, this understanding, this freedom. And then that is liberation. So there's a difference between self-realization leading into full liberation. Liberation in my book is where it's awakening realization is embodied fully and it cannot be shaken anymore, no matter what. No matter what. It's like it's such a done deal. Like, and you know what? In the end, that's the truth of things. It's just wholeness. It's just wholeness is understood and realized here within this context of being a human, right? Without being lost. So there you go. It's really fun to contemplate truth and how deeply one can enter into the moment and being here, and that the point is actually to be here fully. Oh, wait, actually, I have another part to say. It goes along with the not being lost here, not getting lost because you're so free. So there are some people who are now promoting, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. All non-duality is bunk. Well, it's just the definition and what's being put out there. That's could be bunk. But and some teachers and some people are going in the direction that of actually embracing the humanity so fully. Oh, every feeling and just, is like just go for it. Go for it. Well, guess what? If that self sense, the separate self, has not been seen through, that's just being lost in the world and thinking that that's a spiritual experience. It's kind of like, I'm just going to eat up life so much and go for the gusto of all experiences, an experience junkie. And I'm going to, embrace all of my humanity, my feelings and just go for it and be basically a hedonist. I mean, that's another word for hedonism. Okay. And that's not that actually is not liberation or freedom either. You got to have both wings of the bird. You got to have the emptiness so that you're not going to get stuck and lost in content and in what's taking place. So there's freedom within it. That helps you then be able to fully enter the experience. The experience is fully embrace the intimacy of it from and it's empty at the same time. So empty and full at the same time, one great whole, the truth of reality versus leaning too far in the absence of self. And that's just you plant your camping chair there or you're up in the rocket looking down and saying, join me up here. The view is good. And you don't ever have to be uncomfortable again. No suffering here. Have you heard that? Or you're all the way on this other camp, perhaps some teachers are not promoting that because it's pretty popular because, hey, who wouldn't just say, oh yeah, I'm spiritual, I'm just living my life fully and completely lost in experience, not know that, that's not it either. No, we need both. And that's what this whole emptiness and form is about, the marriage, two sides of one whole, one coin. Yep. One. So to me, that's actually the true meaning of Namaste for me, is that emptiness and fullness are here. And when they're here in balance, then we can really be so grateful for the experience, no matter how difficult, how challenging, and it sure can be. Okay. Warm wishes to you, as always. I hope this is helpful in some kind of way.